Well, thanks, everybody. And it is great that you joined us. We want to talk today about executive coaching. The screen that you see in front of you is really, I guess, us doing a little bit of bragging about our background. But David and I formed Plex, which is short for Plan, Lead, and Execute, a little over 2 years ago. And our mission was to help nonprofits do what they do better. I'm not going to, I'll let David introduce himself, but just as background, I've worked, with nonprofits. Right now I'm running a nonprofit, which is the administrator for a self-funded medical plan for school districts. I've started a number of businesses of kind of every category, whether it was 501c3 or LLCs or even C and S Corps. Done a little authoring of some books with one of our partners, Ron Slapitza, who was president of Jewel. We're launching a new
Abram.
Abram. We're launching a course with William Jewell in January around what we call adaptive leadership, which is a marriage of mindfulness and emotional intelligence. I've done some work in the technical area. You can't. I can't prove it, by the way. I'm managing this mouse, but and finally, I've worked with a lot of boards, been on a lot of boards, whether they've been hospitals or higher ed, legal aid. I was lay chairman of a judicial conduct board years ago. So I'm kind of steeped in the nonprofit world and certainly passionate about that. And I want to let David tell you a little bit more about his background, which is, as you can see from the screen, he's been as busy in the nonprofit space as maybe anybody in Kansas City.
Well, that's nice of you to say. So I'm a lawyer by training. I do trial work. And I have found over the years that being involved with the not-for-profit sector actually has made me a better lawyer because I've sat on boards. I understand board management dynamics. I have a lot of lawsuits actually that have dealt with board management relations. So creating Plex with Gary has given us the ability to give back to the community, share our practical insights in helping you all become better CEOs or just on management. I'm not certain how many of you are CEOs who are watching. But on the management side, I think more than the board side you are involved with right now. But we've got some ideas on how to help you with leadership strategies.
Several years ago, I went down to Houston to help with a publicly traded company, and I had a big title. But it occurred to me that once I got there, I continually got dumber as time went on. I mean, it's just, the complexity and just everything was swirling and moving faster than I guess I had anticipated. But I think in today's, what they call VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, being a leader is really, really difficult. And I kind of thought up this metaphor of the snow globe, and snow globes are real pretty when they're settled and you can see right into it, but I think our worlds are pretty much snow globes that are always being jiggled. So one of the things that I didn't have when I went down to Houston was really somebody that I could count on as a kind of one of those outside confidants. And so we think that executive coaching really creates a unique situation for anybody to have somebody that's, that's not a coworker and it's not your boss and it's not the board members, but somebody that you can use as a sounding board or try out ideas, or even come to them and say, heck, what would you do in this situation? So our belief is that a good executive coaching situation really helps quiet that snow globe and helps us do a better job of leading.
So up on the screen, there's another there's another slide that shows the different challenges that you probably encounter as a nonprofit leader. I'm only going to highlight 4 because we could spend several hours talking about all the different ones. One, I want to focus on leadership development. I do think Gary's right. You have a lot of people you relate to as a leader of a not-for-profit. You relate to your board, you relate to your employees, you relate to your constituency. You really have to be on stage and on your game in all those types of relationships. And it can be very lonely because there's sometimes when you really need somebody just to talk to say, hey, here's some of the issues and problems I'm having either with my board or with my senior management or any employee. Here's some problems I'm seeing with the organization. So what we do is become kind of a silent partner. We're there to share anything, to give our insights, to help you develop some tools and strategies for successful leadership. We have accumulated our own ways of dealing with things over the years. There are also a number of articles in a number of national organizations that deal with the not-for-profit arena as well, which can be helpful. So while we recognize it is lonely, we do want to be somebody who you can rely on to give you good, honest information on how to be a better leader. I'm going to drop down to the bottom of this first slide with HR and talent management. HR is really one of the hardest things that, well, any company, for-profit or not-for-profit, has to do, and managing talent through time, building a bench. You may enjoy being CEO, you may not be CEO for the rest of your life, and it really is your job for leveraging talent, as well as maintaining compliance with a lot of regulations in the HR field. If you're not a very big not-for-profit, as CEO, you may do a little bit of everything. So you do need some training in HR, which is awfully important, not only onboarding your own employees, but in some respects, it's a little one-off from traditional HR, but you need to know how to onboard your board as well. If you can switch the slide, that gets into board management and governance, which I have had quite a bit of experience with on the board side, both in the board managing and caring for itself. It's not the job of the CEO to run the board. It is the board. The board needs to run itself with the board chair doing the laboring of that type of work. And sometimes you get into trouble where there are CEOs who think, hey, I got a board that's micromanaging me. What do I do about that? Or you've got a board that says, hey, I've got a CEO who is micromanaging the board, and I don't think they should do that. Those are things we talk about. Those are things that you need good communication in establishing the appropriate relationship, both between the board and senior management, and specifically the CEO, to try to keep things on track. I always use the analogy of 2 plow horses out in the field, that if they're hooked up right, you're really going to plow that field in a wonderful way. If they're not hooked up right, it's going to be a mess, and it often becomes a mess. And the politics of it can become a little overwhelming. That's again where a coach, not having any skin in the game, can really help you think through strategies to get you on the right course. I'm going to close with this section with community engagement. Everybody is interested in how they can get known out in the community with their not-for-profit. Some of it's through website. Some of it is through sitting down and having conversations with folks. Some of it involves raising money. I think that not-for-profits ask for money too soon in establishing a relationship with someone out in the community who might have the means of giving money to the organization. You've got to build a relationship with them, understand what they're looking for, and not ask for money right off the bat. Bring them out for a tour. Really see if they are truly interested in your organization. If they're not, you've got to let them go. If they are, you've got to figure out a strategic plan for keeping them engaged, and then asking for money at the appropriate level and at the appropriate time. So those are just some of the issues that I think nonprofit leaders face, and they do it alone a lot of the time.
So I'm going to rip a page out of my coaching playbook. I love the term coach. I did some coaching at the college level and high school level on the athletic side. And once somebody quits coaching, they love it when somebody comes back and calls them coach. So I'm going to pull a page out of my coaching book, executive coaching book. And these are some things that I look to do or to create. And if you're looking at an executive coach, these are some things that I think are worth remembering as it relates to how you evaluate the coach and the experience. I do think that our culture is one of discussion, which is our ideas that compete. That's a shame, because there's a better way, and that is through dialogue. And I think if you break dialogue down into its original Greek roots, it comes back to ideas flowing together, and that is a great place for a coach and their client to be, is really looking to create ideas that flow together. The components of dialogue are that they're non-judgmental, authentic, deep listening, which really requires the seeking of information and not confirmation, and also seeking understanding. The dialogue should create a safe place for candor, and that's certainly totally one of the huge benefits of a great coaching relationship. I also think that the partnership works better when when the learning objectives are clear and spelled out, so that you can optimize that time that you spend with your coach. A good coaching relationship, though, is always reciprocal. The coaches get as much out of it as their clients. The other thing that I really put a high premium on is this idea of how do we create a high trust relationship. And one of my partners and long time friends, we've sort of tried to boil this thing down to how do you create a trusting relationship. And I think there's three components, which are, and they're shared, which is, you're looking for competency in your coach. You're also certainly looking at character. And then ultimately, do you have a purpose that you're sharing? And then lastly, just a little, I know I mentioned that Ron and I are building this course, or built this course for Jewel called Adaptive Leadership. And the core of that is emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is really, having a high level of self-awareness about how your emotions impact others. Along with that are, high premium on communication skills, high premium on empathy, and ultimately, this idea of how do we build a toolbox or a skill set that really invites folks to follow.
So we also firmly believe that there is not a canned playbook that works for everybody. We sit down with the leader, listen to them, try to understand what the issues are that are confronting that person. We ask a lot of questions. We try to think through, okay, we're not fixing this. I'm always clear about this. We're not fixing the problem for you. We're helping you understand what the problem is and giving you some tools and some ideas about how you fix it. We are your partner, but we're not your fix-it person, your plumber, if you will. I'm going through a situation right now where it's been a little complicated figuring out who the client is. The organization is in transition. The executive director is leaving. And the executive director is a bit at cross purposes with the board and has been. And so the board is having to not only deal with the exit of one leader, but locating a new leader. That requires a lot of different strategies, a lot of thinking through, good communication plan, not only within the board, but within the employees of the company. So that's just an example of how fine-tuned it becomes. The sessions usually are one-on-one, set up at the convenience of the person. There are ways in which you can talk between times. We try to make ourselves as available as possible. Everybody's busy, but it's our job to be responsive to you and try to meet your schedule as much as we can. We also try really hard to keep you out of the weeds. We know you face day-to-day dilemmas which you have to solve, but we're not there to deal in the weeds. We're there to give you some strategic guidance to see how you can make your organization sustainable. If you have fundraising issues, we have talented folks who are very good at giving fundraising advice. We don't know it all, and we're smart enough to say we don't know it all. But one of the things we do have is a number of partners who would work with us who have had experience in other areas. And if we don't have the expertise, I think somebody else on our team can. I know I have had lots of issues with governance over the years while serving on boards. Also have had lawsuits where boards and management have sued each other. That is the worst way to fix a problem. And I'm a trial lawyer, but lawsuits are just the worst way to try to fix something. So we try to fix it through rational dialogue and a lot of listening and a lot of suggestions.
To wrap up, before we open the floor for some questions, let's stipulate, using a David Oliver legal term, that you've hired an executive coach. I think you need to score that experience. And these are just some ideas on how you might evaluate your coaching experience and relationship. But, starting at the first is, is it working? Do you feel comfortable? Is there a trust level that's been developed through time? Certainly that opens the communication. Have the coaching sessions been responsive? Have you created a kind of an outline of what your needs are, or what your issues are, and then are those expectations being met? Is the client or the person being coached, are they growing? Are they really benefiting from it? The relationship of a coach and their client really has to become evaluated on, really, is it creating value? Hopefully, the answer is yes. And we have lots and lots of histories where people have continued that relationship and that coaching relationship. They probably maybe have restructured it, changed the cadence, but these can be lifelong relationships. It's an investment. We're hopeful in that we provide coaching services. We hope that the organizations that are our clients, certainly we're trying to make those very affordable, particularly for our nonprofits. But one idea is to see if the board won't make the investment on behalf of its people. There's certainly the yield on that investment can be spectacular. So we're drawing to a close. David, any other comments before we open?
No, I just want to say that coaching sometimes implies a deficit in the leader, and I don't view it that way. I think a lot of the coaching that goes on is coaching for improvement and coaching for better relationships. It's not, now there are some times when boards especially may think, hey, we've got an issue with our ED, we want to get them to have some coaching. Then you got to figure out who the client is, who do you report to. There's some issues we think through, but I think coaching is not something that should be viewed in a negative light at all. I know I sit on the board of a very large not-for-profit that has coaches for all of its senior managers because they recognize the value. They recognize that it can be a very stressful and lonely position, and you do need somebody who understands the situation, but is also neutral.